Alright guys, I want to talk about new Stukov. I haven't even really looked at this, so we're going to go through all of his abilities and see what has been changed, all of his new talents and everything. He got a decent amount of changes, and the way that, essentially what they wanted to do with Stukov was they wanted him to be less oppressive with his silences, and make his silence talents on more competitive tiers, so if you really wanted to go full silence, you would have a lot less healing, but then you'd be much scarier with your silences, which is interesting because I think that was kind of the thing is like everyone liked Stukov because he had a ton of healing and utility. Then they nerfed down his healing and his utility, and then he kind of just wasn't really either of them, but he was still okay. He just wasn't in like the top few tiers. So let's see what they've changed, and then I'll give my opinions on what we can talk about, like where I think he might end up in the meta afterwards. So they left Spine Launcher the same. Fetid Touch they left the same. Low Blow they moved from level 13, which it is essentially you deal more damage if the enemies are lower health. Lower than 30%, you do double damage. It used to be 2.5. Now it's just 2.0. So it's interesting. It was one of my friend's favorite talents. He knows who he is. He talks about it all the time. I thought it was on a too competitive tier with Virulent Reaction, which allowed you to root people in the area. So I never really picked it up unless my team had like so much CC that I could get away with it. But in most scenarios, I just would never pick it up. Seeing it that it's in an earlier talent tier, I could see myself maybe picking it up if I do get like the Growing Infestation later. Pop and Pustules got a slight change. You can detonate this, and if you detonate it within 1.5 seconds of its expiration, you increase its damage by 100% and apply the damage in slow in an area. So effectively, this is what happens. You throw this out, and you see that this thing's past halfway point. You pop it, and it deals AoE damage and bonus damage. And we can let's pop this and let's go toggle cooldown. So once again, do this. You wait till it gets all the way to the end, and boom! Now it's AoE and does 100% more damage, and it slows for everyone in the area. I think it's going to be pretty cool, personally. I like that change. I don't know. I mean, I think overall it's going to be pretty good, but we will see what we've got rolling on. So, on to the next level. Let's say that I did get, let's go the ease talents for now. One good spread was left pretty much the same. You heal people, you get a lower cooldown on your Q, and you get some of your mana back. With this talent, you have some of the best AoE sustain healing in the game. But they did make some cool changes. So one of them that they did was they made Biotic Armor make it to where your healing pathogen grants armor to everyone. And when you detonate it, it bumps up the armor for 2.5 seconds. Making it to where, yes, you won't have as much sustain healing as one good spread, but you do get physical armor. So against teams that have a lot of physical damage, you could have a huge chunk of armor and win a lot of these fights. So I think that's an interesting pickup. It used to only give armor to the first person that it hit, and now it gives armor to everyone who has it on them. I think that's really cool. Bio Kill Switch heals for 25% more when detonating on 3 or more healing pathogens. This used to be a quest that would do up to 40% more healing with your trait, but it took a long time to build up, so a lot of people didn't pick it because you would often lose objectives early on by missing out on one good spread. Now you just get the bonus earlier, but it's not as powerful as it used to be, and it requires you to pop it on 3 or more people. Not too difficult because that's the same thing with one good spread. I think that this will have its purposes, maybe with some of the later talents, but one good spread will probably be picked up more if you were still going like an E build.
Choose a talent.
This level, they moved Growing Infestation over here, and it's same thing. It expands 50% over 2.5 seconds, but it can't be channeled for longer than 4 seconds. It no longer increases the cooldown, though. It used to increase the cooldown from 10 seconds to 15 seconds, and then you could leave it out as long as you wanted to. There are pros and cons to this. One of the cons about this is that with the new change, you can't just toss an E over here and zone them out from an objective the entire time. Like, let's say, for instance, we were pushing with an Immortal. I would put an E right here, and their melee could no longer damage the Immortal without being silenced the entire time. It was a very powerful push technique that made Stukov amazing on Braxis and BOE, but it was something that was a little bit... It wasn't really used that much afterwards. So this is actually going to be better outside of those scenarios, but much worse in those scenarios. Outside of those scenarios, you usually wouldn't channel it for more than 4 seconds anyways, because people would walk out of the area. Outside of maybe like holding it on a boss zone for a long time, but even then I don't think that's going to be the best way. So I don't think this is going to be I think it's still possibly going to be a good build. Otherwise, you have Targeted Excision, which would synergize really well with the reuptake, because then you could do big heals and you could lower the cooldown of it. Possibly even synergizing well with this, because you hit one person, you AoE slow, you get a lower cooldown, and you get a giant heal. So the full trait build may come back quite a bit, which is, I'm kind of excited to see that come back personally. And then the expanding E build, maybe on specific maps where you can still get a lot of value off of a 4-second giant E, or where you're going like a low blow. We'll just head into that for now. We're going to just pick Massive Shove into level 10. His ults weren't really changed. Level 13, he's gotten a couple changes. You can still radiate these at low health. I've never really liked this talent because I personally don't like staying that low health on Stukov, that near enemies. You can get it Hungers, which makes it to where you can get the increased range. They just moved the range talent from level 7 to level 13, lowered the size of the range a little bit, but they also gave it to where if it damages 15 people, its cooldown's reset and its mana cost is refunded. Which means if you do get the expand, you could possibly keep getting the E over and over and over, which is pretty cool personally. I like that effect of getting the Hungers while still having the other things, but then you lose the root. So it's really putting a lot of his talents on competitive tiers. It's very difficult to choose which one you want to get, because this would be best if you wanted to go for just silencing people the entire game. But then if you wanted to actually combo, then this one's better, but then you can only combo for 4 seconds. And it's really back and forth. You don't have the bonus range anymore. So it's going to be really tough for me to not pick this while deciding if I want to go with like an It Hungers build or something. So I really don't know. Assuming that I still wanted to get the root, I'm not sure if I would go the same build anymore.
Choose a talent.
Level 16 is mostly unchanged. You have all the same things that you had before. Super Strain's still there. And pretty much my rule for this was based on your level 4 talent. If you're getting one good spread, you're going to have Qs on everyone as it is, so both of these are kind of useless, because you're already going to have Qs on everyone. So I would always get Super Strain, because it made it to where the Q that you would always have on everyone would heal them whenever they got stunned or rooted, which is usually when they were getting threatened to die anyways. Now that I see that the trait build might be back, I see that the trait could be there again, or you would go spread continuously so that you always have heals going off, so when you did pop your trait, you knew you didn't need to worry about having heals on anyone. So I could see either of these being used for the trait build. So I would say if you're going to go with the armor one, you would definitely want to go with this, because then you would get the... you would have the armor going out, and then you'd pop it, and you have big armor, and you would still have the heals off on everyone. So I would probably go with a carrier on that, or either way I would go this for the armor for sure. Level 20, he got something that I love for level 20. Let's talk about this. So level 20, let me just pick anything. Level 20, he got Top Off moved. Top Off used to be a level 4 talent that was, I believe it was level 4. I might They moved it from somewhere else in the area. Which essentially means if the allies are above 60% health, your heal heals for 30% more on its healing over time. And it was good, but it was never as good as what else was on its talent tier. Seeing as it's a level 20 upgrade now, you can get other healing talents and now have that extra 30% heal. Meaning no matter how you get the other talents, that's pretty good. And a lot of people didn't really like his level 20s to begin with. So seeing as it's only a 30% increase, it doesn't seem very high. But the fact that his other level 20s were not very competitive, I personally love that he has this talent. So that is new Stukov. I think ultimately we may be seeing a couple builds out of him. I think the pop is going to be one of them. And with the pop, we probably would also still see the root, followed by the pop, followed by probably top. I don't know about top off, but you're still going to have your heals off. So I think this might be one of the builds that we're going to see, where you kind of get your Q off on people. You do this, you root them, and then you do AoE slows to anyone who's not in the root, and you keep your heals on everyone for a little bit longer. I think that's definitely going to be one of the major builds for him. I think his old build might kind of still exist, but it's going to be shifted around a little bit. Like the... I don't really know. There might be a silence build that gets like lower cooldowns on silences, big silences if you really wanted it. Against something like a Maev that you know she's going to be fighting in a small area and you want to just keep getting off the giant resets over and over and over. I think that's probably going to be a very niche pick now for his silence builds. And then I would say his other build that he probably is going to get is maybe fetted into one good spread into maybe the expand. It lowers his basic ability cooldowns though. Maybe long pitch. I think this might be like the standard build otherwise. Still gives you a lot of the major tools that you need, and it still works in a lot of situations. You're going to have longer range with your W, which means that you should be able to get some pretty good silences, as well as you'll be able to slow people a lot with really low cooldowns. You'll have a lot of mana. So this is probably going to be a sustained healing build, is something along the lines of this. Still keeps the root, still keeps a lot of his other value. And so I'd say those are his 3 builds, really. I would say this is his sustain healing build. He's probably going to have a trait burst heal build, and then he's going to have a probably a silence, very rare niche build against like heavy frontline where you go into the expand and then reset so that you can keep doing the expand with free mana over and over and over. But I don't know. I'm actually really excited to see his changes. Since they just nerfed him down, I felt like when he was strong, I felt he was too strong and too oppressive with his silences. But since they nerfed him, I felt like he was just outclassed by everyone else. Now that they're just changing him around, I'm really excited to see what this is like in real games. And I'm probably going to play a lot of Stukov to figure this out. So thank you all for watching. I'll go over the Chromie probably next. I don't know. Maybe I've already gone over it. I don't know how I'm going to schedule out these videos yet, but I'm going to go over some of the Chromie changes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But thanks again for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. And, yeah, should be good.